Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
So guys, our guest for today is an alumni of London Film School. He has directed web series for Netflix like Ghoul and Betaal. He has also has his writing and adaptation credits for Netflix web series called Leila. He also acts sometimes, like you have seen him in movies like Trap starring Rajkumar Rao. Latest, his web series that's making all the news and the buzz, that's Dancing on the Grave, that got people thinking, how the hell did that happen? So please welcome Mr. Patrick Graham.
Thank you very much for having me. Is this too dark? Am I looking too moody now? It wasn't my intention. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's good. It's giving us a good cinematographic feel of the shadows.
I'm like a DOP. I've got a bit of shadow going on. It's great.
Like before taking this interview, I did little bit research work and I was going through your previous interview. So in your previous interviews, you have always said that you always wanted to direct movies since age 10. So I wanted to ask, like, how has been your journey from film school to Bollywood? How has been the journey?
It's been a bit of a twisty and turny journey, as you can imagine. It's not an easy profession to pursue, but it's been kind of interesting. Man, it's a long story, which I'm not going to bore you with in much detail. But basically, leaving film school in London, you're suddenly confronted with the real world, and suddenly you're like, now what? What do I do? And sometimes teachers and professors don't give you the best advice. So it's like you kind of have to figure out yourself how to do stuff. And what I thought was, it's so hard to get into the industry in the UK that I should try India. And I knew people out in India that I had studied with at film school. So I worked with my friends in Mumbai for the first 3 years, writing spec scripts and doing some bit of acting as well on the side, which I'm quite bad at. And then luckily 2015, Phantom were interested in an idea that I had, and they took a chance with me, and they gave me my first opportunity really with Ghoul. Then it all just kind of started from there really.
From being a Bollywood movie buff and who also have an interest in international cinema, you have some big names associated with you, be it Jason Blum, be it Shah Rukh Khan's Red Chillies. You're already living the dream which many want to live.
Well, I mean, sure. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Because you kind of, there's always one more thing you'd rather be doing, isn't there? There's always one more thing that you want. You're never satisfied, I suppose. But yeah, like it's incredible. Jason Blum, my God, that's like meeting one of your heroes. And I only met him very briefly, like a breakfast meeting with Vikramaditya. Anurag Kashyap was there, some other people, and he didn't really say much to me because I was just like the small fry at the table. But he did lean over Anurag's shoulder at one point and said, "This is your first project. Don't fuck it up." And I'll always remember that advice from Jason Blum, which was amazing. And obviously meeting Shah Rukh Khan was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. It's incredible. Like, that guy is amazing. I'm so happy that Pathan has done well recently because he's a legend, and he was incredibly nice in person, which I was blown away by meeting him. I met him a few times actually over the course of Betaal. So he's a legend.
What we have seen is, like, you have did horror, you have did crime. Like, is now what's next genre you would be exploring after this?
Maybe a bit more kind of unscripted, perhaps. I'm currently developing kind of like a sci-fi horror comedy, which would be fun because it's kind of like my first go at doing comedy. And I think that's going quite well. We've written a couple of episodes. I think it's funny, but then other people might not. What else? Yeah, just kind of branching out, trying to explore. I mean, bit more horror maybe. Maybe a bit of crime. People seem to like crime stories. So,
you working in Bollywood, would you not be exploring romance?
I think that's the one area that I just can't really be bothered with. But like, who knows? If the right story comes along, then sure, why not?
In your interview, you said when you were writing Ghoul, you used to, you have those visions and dreams, and then you used to write them. A similar phenomena, I follow a director I'm a huge fan of, Mr. Wes Craven. So when he was when he was writing A Nightmare on Elm Street. So he also used to has these visions of Freddy Krueger or anything mysterious, so that people may not accuse that it's copied or inspired from somewhere, so that the scenes should look more authentic and original. So is it something? Is it something like you also do?
I don't know. I mean, ghoul. The idea of ghoul literally came from a dream. And I mean that's not made up. That is actually true. But yeah, I'm always just trying to kind of work out a way to do things slightly differently. For example, with Betaal, for better or for worse, you know, I didn't just want to make another zombie show because I'm starting to find zombies a bit boring. So we kind of wanted to give it a bit of a twist, do something with it ourselves, make the monsters a bit different, like their own thing. So yeah, and similarly with Dancing on the Grave, you know, I just tried to forget all the other documentaries I watch and just kind of try to make it as I felt it should be made.
Before this interview, I watched Ghoul and I also watched Betaal. I can say that both these web series, first of all, they are visually very stunning. And while watching Ghoul, I was kind of feeling claustrophobic. Like it looked like I was feeling like I was trapped in a tunnel. Like was while shooting, do you felt claustrophobic or something, or it was
Well,
very
it was claustrophobic. It was claustrophobic. Well, the thing is, you know, we wanted to experiment with the idea that you never see the outside until the very ending, right? So it's like a relief when you get out, and that whole thing, whether you know, not really knowing whether it's night or day. But the place we were filming in, which was the Tulip Star Hotel in Juhu, which is mostly derelict and abandoned, although they still do occasionally use it for some bizarre functions, which I wouldn't really want to be invited to. But it's a claustrophobic place. Like the basement, we shot a lot in the basement. It's like a cavern down there. You know, it's got its own kind of ecosystem. It's like humid. It's kind of, the temperature's different down there because the sewers is running right underneath it. It kind of smells. It's like it's a dungeon. You know, it's a very you know, it's a nightmarish place, and so that kind of fed into the look of Ghoul, I think.
There's one scene where Radhika is, you know, she's banging the door, and the Pahalwan guy, the heavy guy, is coming to kill her. Like some scenes were really like it was very intense for me. Like the adrenaline was really rushing.
Great. Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
While talking about Betaal, I want to mention like it was gory at the same point of time. Like it was kind of slasher. It felt like you're watching some slasher and stuff. But I especially like the zombies' eyes and all. They were like quite scary. Like
yeah, I like those zombies' eyes as well. But a lot of people didn't seem to like them from some of the reviews that I saw. It's like, why have they got light bulbs in their eyes? It's like, what? They're red eyes. They're cool. What are you talking about? They're awesome. But it's like if you see something like John Carpenter's The Fog, for example, you've got the kind of the ghosts of the dead mariners in the town, and they've got these kind of glowing eyes, and that kind of thing always stays with me, you know, so I wanted to kind of do that a little bit.
There's one particular thing that I noted when the characters, there's some intense scene, the camera is on them and they're running. Like, is it shot through a device called Sonari Cam? You shot with that, or it's like just like the camera on the actors and all? Like,
oh, you know where body rig? There's a body rig on some of the shots in Betaal. Yeah. We were experimenting with this body rig a little bit. It didn't quite come off as maybe I would have hoped, but like we were trying to, in some instances, get that kind of slightly video game feel with the over-shoulder body cam. But I always like those kind of body cam shots because they're so intense, and you know, there's some great things you can do with it. But it's a very annoying piece of equipment because it takes 45 minutes to set it up. It's really hard for the actor to move around with it. I'm sure the technology is getting better and better all the time, but the body rig that we had for that was a bit of a pain. But we got some nice stuff, like the zombie running towards the front door with the body rig was cool. But that actor has to be very physically fit to be able to carry that weight.
I remember, like for Dev D, Anurag Kashyap use it, you know, for shooting some scenes of Abhay Deol when he's going in that song Pardesiya.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it gives a kind of very cool look on the actors and all the situation.
I think the first time I really noticed it was in Requiem for a Dream. Where they put a body cam on Jennifer Connelly's character, and she runs down outside of this apartment building and vomits, and I always love that shot. So I think that was maybe kind of, that was when I first became aware of a body cam.
Being in Mumbai, do you hang out with other Bollywood directors and all, or are your any personal favorites Bollywood directors?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I was lucky enough to kind of start out around the time of some really great actors, a lot of really great actors that I've seen kind of rise, that get, become really successful. So it's been really lovely to see how people's career have done, musicians, other directors, writers. So yeah, I'm lucky in the people that I know and the people who I am still friends with. Yeah, it's like a little clique, I suppose, isn't it? It's kind of, and with every new project you make new friends and contacts.
I want to take one name in particular, since you have worked at Phantom. He is also associated with Anurag Kashyap. His name is Mr. Bejoy
Yeah.
He had directed a movie called Shaitan. I think it's really cool. Have you met him?
Do you know what? I haven't met Vijoy Nambir, but I do very distinctly remember first watching Shaitan and really enjoying like how stylish it was. He's obviously visually a very stylish director. He's very cool. I think everybody realizes that his work is, it's always really stylish and cool. So yeah.
So coming up, talking about dancing on the grave, when we click Amazon Prime, your photo comes, and in that photo, you are in that Sagar jail where you have interviewed Swami Shraddhand. Did you personally interacted with him?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But the person who spoke to Swami Shraddhand the most, because obviously the language barrier and because is this guy called Ankit Gupta, who was the creative producer on Dancing on the Grave, and he's a seasoned journalist, so he was there to conduct a lot of the interviews himself. So like me and him kind of shared the responsibility of interviewing the subjects, but for the Shraddhand conversation, because a lot of it was in Hindi, it was mainly Ankit who was asking him questions, and then at the end I spoke to him a bit, and then off camera, me and him were talking occasionally. It was a very interesting experience. I mean, because he came across as kind of quite a frail old man, which is what he is essentially, but he was very much on the ball. Like his mind was all there. He was, you could see that he had ambitions for what we were doing. He felt that this was going to be helpful to him, I think, and so we always had to kind of balance the idea that we didn't want to serve his purposes, whatever they may be. But I think we succeeded. We probably could have been a bit harsher with him, but then at the same time we had to consider the fact that he was old, he was frail, and we were trying to just kind of keep objective.
There was two honorable mentions that I want to give from the series. There's one scene where Shraddhand is spraying that cat, and he's saying इसमें shaukreh की आत्मा तो नहीं आ गई है?
Yeah, that was shocking. That was shocking. But it was I think it was the second camera operator, Chahek, her name is, and she was outside. I think she was putting one of the cameras away, and Shraddhand was just kind of walking around, and he was kind of showing off a bit in front of the guards and in front of our crew, kind of making people laugh, like joking around. And I feel like he slightly let his guard down, and he was doing this stuff with the cat, and I think we were like, check, roll camera. So it's like that. And then luckily the sound recordist had his microphone on, and we managed to find the sound. So it kind of worked out. It's nice to find those moments. But there were many other moments like that which I wish we'd recorded, because I think off camera you got more of an insight into his character. But I think we've got a few nice candid moments in the documentary.
Yeah. One thing I also noticed, like the lawyer that he has hired, Alok, vagracha, like I can see like he is little bit sympathetic, towards his client, and yeah, he's on a mission to get him free. Like we can, as an audience, I can see that.
Well, it's his job, and that's the thing. That was something really interesting about talking to these lawyers and the prosecution as well. It's almost becomes like an intellectual exercise for these guys, and that's why it's so fascinating reading these court documents, because it is this back and forth in legalese, and it's a really coherent, well thought argument essentially. And Alok Vagracha, I don't know if he really thought he was innocent or not. to be honest, but he was just doing his job. And the question of innocence or guilt, I don't think it's even relevant, because his job is to defend this guy.
One question, I don't know whether people have come up or asked, why out of Shaukreh's 4 daughters, only Sabha is seen? Where are the other 3?
Well, we just thought because Saba had such an instrumental role in the narrative of the show that she had to be included in detail, and she was a main character, essentially. She's pretty much kind of almost like the protagonist of the first episode. The other daughters, I feel like they were slightly peripheral to kind of the main events of that searching story. So we didn't really want to kind of get people involved that we didn't have to. We didn't want to go into too much detail. So it was more of kind of just keeping the narrative as simple as possible. Yeah.
But overall, if observing or if judging Shaukreh's personality, she was the, like, ye kehte na, party ki jaan. Like, I think she was a noble woman, I guess.
Yeah. She was.
Yeah.
She was from high society. She was from a incredibly wealthy and high up family. And I mean, getting insights into their family was also really fascinating for me, because I've never been inside that kind of aristocratic world. You know, I'm not aware of it. And it was, you know, very elegant, well-mannered, well-cultured people. And, you know, just speaking to some of them that you can see in the documentary itself, it was like a glimpse into a world that otherwise I would have seen before. And their family in particular have done so much to kind of build, for example, Bangalore, or Bangalore as we know it today. I mean, all these families went in to create the modern India that we know today. So it's pretty interesting. And Shaukreh herself was a really fascinating character. We tried to kind of figure out a bit about her as much as we could in 4 episodes, but yeah.
These days, Netflix is also coming out with these docuseries. So have you watched any episode of Indian Predator also?
Do you know what? I have to admit, I haven't, because when I was making this show, I just wanted to not be watching other documentary series, just especially from the Indian side, because I just didn't want to get influenced too much by them. But I have them to watch, and I'm looking forward to watching them. And in fact, India Today made one of the Indian Predators, which I'm looking forward to seeing as well. And there was Vice as well that made a couple. So I hear they're really good, and yeah, I'll be watching them soon. But I need a bit of a break from true crime now.
Vice recently made another documentary for Amazon that's Cinema Marte.
Yeah.
I think it was a great show. Have you seen that?
Seen it. Yeah. No, it was awesome. I really loved it. And it felt really original and novel, and it was fantastic. And also for a filmmaker as well, just seeing, you know, filmmaking carries the same issues and problems, you know, from the smallest budgets to the biggest budgets. You're going to be having the same, obstacles to face while you're filming, just at a different scale.
One problem that people might be facing with these documentaries, like we Bollywood lovers, we like a lot of masala in content. These documentaries or original series, sometimes they lack masala and they're more of an intellectual kind of content. There might be some risk, like people get bored sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, that's just the world we live in right now. What can you do? I feel like you have to, of course, always think about how to keep your audiences engaged. At the same time, just throwing in twists or surprises just for the sake of it, you end up just telling a bad story or telling a story badly. So, you know, it's a balance, isn't it? I feel like sometimes people mistake twists and turns for good storytelling, when if you just tell a good story in an engaging way, you can hold your audience's attention. But it is tough. Attention spans are pretty limited nowadays. Just the way it is.
That's why I wanted to ask you, when I was watching Ghoul, I watched Betaal, I watched Dancing on the Grave. Is it your conscious decision that you keep it till 3 or 4 episodes, or it's the decision of the streaming platform?
Well, with Ghoul, it was originally a feature film, but when Netflix picked it up, they were really only looking for series, so they asked me to extend the story by half an hour to make it into a 3-part miniseries. So that was how that became a series. Then with Betaal, they wanted to do the similar thing. They liked the kind of compact nature of Ghoul, and they wanted to kind of try it again, basically keep it short and sweet. With Dancing on the Grave, it was literally just about what we felt was necessary. And I think nowadays a lot of documentary series are only 3 episodes or 4 episodes. So
Yeah.
it was either going to be 3 episodes or 4 episodes. And in the end, we kind of landed at 4 episodes. We did actually try and edit of 3 episodes, but we just felt 4 was the correct thing to do. And I think structurally it works, because you've got one is the setup, 2 is the crime, 3 is his version of events, and 4 is bringing both arguments together. So it's the structure, to me, is correct with 4 episodes.
You could tell what are your personal favorites in terms of movies, not specifically with Bollywood, from internationally. You can tell us anything.
I don't know.
Or favorite director or something, anything in pop culture.
Oh my God! There's just so many that immediately when I get asked that question, my mind goes completely blank. I suppose what I've been watching at the moment is shows like Succession, which are amazing. Obviously, there's Jubilee, which just came out, which I'm watching at the moment, which is a landmark. You know, it's obviously a masterpiece, which is gonna leave an impression on the industry, I think. What else have I been watching?
Any British film?
British film. Do you know what? Because I'm not in UK, I just don't watch a lot of British stuff. What's a good British film I've seen recently? I don't know. I heard reports that they're adapting William Dalrymple's book of the Anarchy, and it's a really amazing book, and the story will be incredible if they can actually pull it off. So I'd be looking forward to that. Oh, my friend Fee is saying Exorcist. Yes, Fee, Exorcist. Me and Fee used to watch The Exorcist over breakfast when we were hungover in London. So that's obviously a classic.
Have you seen Harry Potter movies?
I have seen Harry Potter movies, but I was never a big Harry Potter fan. I like the Lord of the Rings films when they first came out, but if you watch them now, I feel like it's like, really, it's a bit embarrassing. But no, they're obviously classics. There's I don't know. I mean, I have my kind of bank of favorite directors, people like Sam Raimi. He was the one that really inspired me to want to make films in the first place when I watched Evil Dead 2 for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was like, I watched Evil Dead 2 and I was like, okay, who's making the decisions about how to move the camera around? Who's making those decisions? So I was just like, I want to be that guy.
And from where the visuals and the lighting aspect come from? Is it comes from director like Dario Argento or something?
Dario Argento. Well, it usually comes from whichever DOP I'm working with. I don't know, the kind of style, like lighting styles and camera styles, it moves with the times, and I suppose you're just kind of following it with a certain level of intuition. It's hard to say where you're kind of making conscious decisions and where it's kind of just kind of an instinct as to how things should look.
If you could talk a little bit about your cameo from Trap, was it inspired from Bear Grylls' Man vs. Wild?
It was what was it? It was kind of Steve Irwin, Bear Grylls, basically. And I was working at Phantom at the time when we were developing Ghoul there. So Vikram and Deepa de Motwane, his mum was like, we need a white guy, Patrick. I was like literally just working at Phantom. It's like, Patrick, we need a white guy. Come on. Which is how I get a lot of roles, actually. It's just, we need a white guy. Who do we know? Oh,
yeah.
Patrick.
Yeah. I was even thinking that, do casting directors consciously approach you for this?
Because like there's only about 5 white actors in Mumbai, so occasionally I do get calls. But usually I just say no because frankly I'm a rubbish actor, and also I just can't remember lines. Like I just forget lines. So unless I'm making up lines, I just can't remember them. So in fact on Trapped I was pretty much allowed just to make things up as I was talking. So.
If you could talk a little bit about Leila, what was your role on the adaptation?
With Leila, I was just a kind of staff writer in the writer's room. That was the showrunner was Urmi Juveka, and I was working with my good friend Sahani Kanwar on that. And it was, it was a job. I loved the book a lot, and I'm friends with the person who wrote it. And I always remembered like reading that book on like the second day after it had been kind of released. And loving it, and I just knew that I wanted to work on it somehow, and I did tell my agents that, and luckily I think maybe a year or 2 later I managed to kind of worm my way into the writer's room on that project.
From the work you've done, I started thinking that you specialize in making dystopia or post-apocalyptic Hunger Games kind of genre. Is it like, Do you have you seen Hunger Games, or do you like dystopian content and all?
I mean, I haven't really seen. I've seen the first Hunger Games. I mean, it's more stuff like. I mean, I love a good dystopian story. I suppose I, first became aware of it with stuff like Mad Max and Blade Runner. But like 1984, I remember watching the film of 1984 way too early with John Hurt. Yeah, so not really. What's it called? It's more. Also, the other thing was, of course, is that for Ghoul, we kind of needed a dystopian. We needed to set it in a dystopian future, because if we set it in present day, real India, then there might be problems. You know what I mean? So we set it in a kind of slightly away from reality.
Do you watch regular commercial films, or you are more of an audience like who likes to watch specifically festival films and all?
Do you know what? I like watching fun, entertaining commercial films. I'm not particularly an academic. I find kind of festival films a bit boring a lot of the time. That might be just because I'm stupid, in which case I apologize. But I like to be entertained, and I like suspense. I like excitement. I like to see good stories. I'm a fan of good, honest, trashy content. I do look. That's not to say that I don't appreciate good films and better films. And there are, of course, some more mature films and sophisticated films that I would go for. I'm a cinephile in general, in the sense that I like everything. But yeah, I've never been much of a kind of festival goer.
You talked about Sam Raimi. My first Sam Raimi, yours was Evil Dead 2. My first Sam Raimi movies were the Spider-Man movies. And what I miss from his Spider-Man movies is the way he used to depict New York, like the city, and so many characters from the city. So I can I'm also a huge Sam Raimi fan, and I miss these kind of things that these new Spider-Man movies, they lack these kind of things.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Sam Raimi has a great sense of humor. Clearly, throughout all his films, most of his films, he has a great kind of. It's clear that his tongue is firmly in his cheek a lot of the time. So I feel like, yeah, there's that kind of element of comedy which comes from the kind of extreme characterizations in his version of New York in his Spider-Man film. His Spider-Man films are actually the last Spider-Man films I ever watched, really. I haven't watched any of the new ones since then. I know that he did a Doctor Strange movie, didn't he, recently, which I haven't seen. But Sam Raimi is obviously a bit of a god. His Evil Dead films are a lot of fun. And there's a new Evil Dead film which he produced, which I have to see as well.
Yeah, I've seen that new Evil Dead film, but I don't know why I consciously I was comparing it with Conjuring movies.
Have you seen the original Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3?
I've seen only the first one, the cabin one.
So Evil Dead 1 and 2 are both in that cabin, but Evil Dead 2 is a kind of a remake of Evil Dead 1. And then there's the kind of remake that came out in 2011 or something by, I think, Fede Alvarez, which was actually pretty good. But his original kind of breakout film, Evil Dead 2, was a comedy. It was essentially a horror comedy. And it's a lot of fun, and it's always amazing to watch.
Yeah. And the amount of gore he puts into this movie, and all the stupid stuff that people do after getting possessed, it's just like crazy.
Yeah, it is. And I always enjoy on Betaal and Ghoul, like I usually just take the bucket of blood from the makeup crew and be just like, just let me do this, please. And I'd just be like sloshing it around. It's just like, yes, this is why I'm doing this job, throwing blood around. Like if there's a bit of blood splatter on a wall, I'm very good at like getting it right, on shot. So that's, if nothing else, I'm good at blood splatter on camera.
So you used to play Blood Holy on set.
Exactly, yeah, Blood Holy on set. And usually at the end of the day, I'd be covered in blood as well. You've had a good day if you're covered in blood.
There's a new web series that came in February on Netflix. It's called Class by Ashim Ahluwalia. Have you seen or have you interacted with that director anytime?
I haven't, but he did Miss Lovely, didn't he? That was a good film. And he's clearly got this incredible passion for a particular genre. He's obviously a very talented person, but I've never met him. But I'm aware of Class. It's on my list to watch. I've heard really good things about it. Well, it seems to have polarized opinion, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to polarize opinion. I will watch it. I fully intend to do that. I have one friend saying, "Oh, it's not realistic," and I've got another friend saying, "You got to watch it. It's so cool." So I'm interested to see it.
We have talked about so many directors. Do at the end of the day or after a few years, how do you see yourself? Do you also see yourself building a legacy of films, or how do you see that? How do you have contributed to the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I guess so. It's hard to say, really. Every time I get a new project, I just feel lucky that I'm still able to do the job that I love, So I suppose the lucky thing about being a writer and a director is that you can keep on going until relatively late in life. So I feel like, I've still got a lot of great projects left to go, and I hope that I can make some small mark. I was the bad guy in Betaal, Colonel Lindock, this vampire who lives in the cave. He was featured in this book of 2,000 on-screen vampires recently. So I was like, yes, that's an achievement. You're within a legacy of amazing characters and creations. So that was nice. But yeah, I hope I've got a few more to go, and yeah, I'm really happy with how things have gone so far, and I'm proud of the work that I've done. I hope I can keep on evolving, keep on making more interesting stuff. Yeah.
Do your friends and family from Britain, do they visit India?
Some of them have, yeah. Obviously, it's such a different, until you come to India, it's very hard to imagine what it must be like if you're from England. And I certainly remember when I first got here in 2010. I'd never visited India before, and how amazed I was by the place. And it took me about a year to get used to it. Every day I wake up and be like, I'm living in India. What the hell's going on? But it's such an exciting, energetic, vibrant country. The food is so amazing. People are so lovely. So it's a great place. And yeah, when my friends come to visit, they're always like, they love the place. And my parents have been a couple of times.
Since you are a writer, there's a phenomena that people say, I'm in a writer block. If you could tell us what is writer block, and if you can elaborate, do you have to do?
Sometimes I feel like I'm not a real writer because I don't seem to get writer's block. Maybe like good writers get writer's block, but I'm just like, I seem to be okay. I'm writing. It's fine so far. I haven't really experienced it so far. I don't know. Maybe it takes different forms for different people. Maybe if you're in a lull or a creative dry patch, maybe that's writer's block. I don't know, but I seem to have avoided it so far. A writer that I worked with once, Adi Abat, who did the dialogues for Betaal, he said, writer's block is for amateurs. We haven't got time for writer's block, so maybe he's right,
What are your future projects, or would you be making a movie?
I would love to make a movie at some point. Yeah, that is definitely up there on my list of things to do. At the moment, I'd say it's probably easier to get shows made than movies, but I feel like the industry is kind of finding a balance where it's kind of veered towards shows, but I feel like it's going to kind of find a balance, and I think more films will start to get made again. There's a certain value in being told a story that you can finish in one evening, because sometimes when you've got like 5 different shows that you've got to keep track of, it's too much, and you just want to just give me a film. Do you know what I mean? There's something still very lovely about an encapsulated story. So yeah, sometimes it's nice just to. I sometimes have phases where I just watch features. So yeah, hopefully soon. Let's see.
I just want to say one thing before parting. I ask this one question from every people I interview who are in this business. You work with so big names, which people dream of working with, like be it Anurag Kashyap, Shah Rukh Khan, Jason Blum. There's one specific question which I ask people, like, you must be seeing fame and people want to get associated with you. Some people get fame in their head. How do you stay grounded?
There's no choice of staying grounded, because I'm not at that level, and I don't consider myself to be famous I'm not famous, but also like I'm just doing my job. You know what I mean? I'm just a writer director. I'm not on that level at all. But you know, I do meet a lot of big people in the industry. But the funny thing is, the people I get starstruck by aren't really the actors. It's more people like Motwane. You know, when I worked with him on Ghoul, even though we were working together for many years, I'd still be starstruck by him. You know what I mean? So it's just people that you know are so talented. Those are the people who always leave, you know, make me a bit like, oh my God, he's, you know, obviously Shah Rukh Khan, when I first met him, I was like, oh my God. I was so nervous about meeting Shah Rukh Khan that I had to like do breathing exercise, lying on the floor of an office at Red Chili's for about an hour before we went to his house. So, yeah. So yeah. Also, I live in Andheri, so you can't really get to above your station when you're living on Veera Desai Road.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for giving me time, and I really look forward to talking and watching your content in future, and would be, you know, sending you message on your DMs.
Wicked, sounds good. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.